Welcome to Enlightenment Unknown, Life of a Spiritual Nomad. Join Reiki Master and Quantum Healing expert Wes Coons as he guides listeners through the depths of self-discovery and spiritual enlightenment to uncover the version of you we haven't met yet.
Welcome to Enlightenment Unknown, Life of a Spiritual Nomad. My name is Wes Coons, and welcome back to the show. We are starting Episode 1, Season 4, and I have a super special guest. Say hello, Bretney.
Hello, everyone.
So I've got my friend Bretney here, and she's going to be on the podcast today. It's her first podcast she's ever done. It's my first one, too, so it'll be fun.
Clearly.
Yeah, so welcome. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. You know, the fun thing about this show, I was looking at some statistics before we started. We've had 3,700 downloads so far.
That's absolutely amazing.
Isn't that crazy?
Crazy.
And I had a new listener today messaging me asking some questions. That's always fun. But we're from Costa Rica to Ukraine, Egypt, Japan, Russia. We're all over the world. And we've got some of the best listeners.
Because your people find you.
I know, right? The best part, Bretney, is since you're on the show and you want to go to any of these countries, part of listening to the show, they have to let us crash at their pad.
Absolutely. Let's go.
Yeah.
Where are we going first?
I want to go to Russia.
Russia?
Yeah.
Out of all places, Russia. I'm thinking more like the Maldives or something like that, but I don't know if we have any listeners there.
I don't know, but you know why I like Russians so much?
Why?
They ain't got time for bullshit.
That's very true.
Yeah.
Very true.
All my Russian friends are clear and straight to the point. And if you can hear that on the podcast, that is the United States Navy flying over. And I'm not going to edit it. We'll just let the sound of freedom go by.
All right.
Yeah. So I can't believe we're starting season 4.
It's pretty wild.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. So I was talking to somebody the other day and she asked me, she's like, what's your podcast about? And I'm like, fuck, that's a loaded question, dude.
Very loaded question.
I mean,
which episode?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's not like some people have a podcast that talks about eating healthy or, you know, women's health or something of that nature, which are all wonderful podcasts to have. This one just has so much to it. And I said, well, it kind of starts with a haunted house and me surviving that and going through those things and starting to do healing work. And I haven't talked about after the haunted house much.
I mean, that's just loaded in itself. There's a lot of emotion there. There's a lot of just energy that I feel like you kind of have to find deep within you to be able to talk about that, especially when you did a whole couple episodes going through all the reminders and the situation all over again for people to understand what you actually went through.
Yeah. So I know I was listening to one of the episodes. Somebody asked me, said, do you listen to your podcast? I'm like, yeah. I said, some of the earlier episodes I think sounds like shit. And some of the older ones, maybe not so great. I'm still working on the sound part. Dude, the sound part's elusive. I got to be honest. We got all this equipment trying to get the echo out and do it and make it sound like Walter Cronkite, which it is what it is, but the message is good. And I was listening to this episode when Eric was here and I had just moved into 67th Street. The haunted house was over. And my thinking, there was no way I was going to live on 67th Street because I wasn't living near them fucking hippies. But all the places wouldn't rent to me except for the one on 67th Street. And I was reflecting before you came in, I had forgotten I'd set up this little healing room downstairs on the first floor, begging people to come over and do healing sessions. And of course I wasn't charging at that time and I didn't know what I was doing, but it was so much fun going through that because the angels and God and Jesus, spirit, whatever you want to call it, would come in and show me how to do something different. You're very, very gifted. So you're Reiki master, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And when we work together, it's fun.
So much fun.
Yeah. The energy's crazy. It's like, so when you're working on that person and things come up and things, you see things and like the way you heal is different than the way I heal.
Absolutely.
And I tell people it's like your fingerprint is so it's individual for you. And I like when you work on me. I don't let a lot of people work on me. I think the last time you worked on me, I couldn't see straight for like 3 hours.
Yeah, I remember you saying that you had a hard time driving home.
Yeah, right?
And you fell asleep on the bed, and that's not like you either.
Yeah, I did fall asleep, but I think healing work is just beautiful.
Well, it is. It's unique to every situation. Like, obviously, our healing sessions together are going to be completely different than if, say, person A walks in with you. And I also believe that I know you don't have to believe to get a healing, but I feel like the more that you are in tune with your own energy and the belief of it
Mhm.
sets kind of like the tone for the healing session.
Yeah. I think it clears the path and opens your heart for you to receive. I like to listen to Joel Osteen. I enjoy listening to his podcast. Jesus speaks through him to me almost daily. If I have something going on and I turn on the radio, it's not in his podcast. It's that second I turn it on, he's given me the answer to the problem that I have. I'm like, how's that even fucking possible?
You know what? The universe or God or source or whatever you want to call it always gives you what you need in that moment.
Mhm.
So through songs, through literally, I walked up on your doorstep. I don't think that I told you this ADHD moment. As soon as I walked up your steps, a white butterfly flew by. It just made me smile. It's just like little things, like little like cues of alignment. You're like, oh, yep, that was pretty. Like, I know I'm meant to be here. It's bright and beautiful. And that's kind of how our energy always is together. So
Yeah, it is. It is. And I like the energy of my house. If you don't know, on the show, we record out of a back bedroom in my house, but I think the energy is good here. I like it here.
oh, it's great. It's bright, it's airy, it's definitely light in here. It's not
Mhm.
there's nothing dense or heavy about it at all.
Now, did you notice hearing the wind chimes at all since you've been here?
Specifically in this room, or when I first walked up, I noticed them because I thought they were pretty, but I haven't heard
Yeah.
them since being in the house.
It's funny because when Andrea and I started recording, we would do it in the kitchen area. And you would hear those things like somebody was on the front porch banging them with their hand.
And it was during certain specific parts of the episode, wasn't it?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, no, I haven't heard them since I've been in the house.
And it was like days just like this that we would record where there's not really any wind, but you would hear those wind chimes going and going and going. And
Interesting.
somebody texted me today asking, did we add that in? I said, no, that was 100%. I'm not smart enough to know how to add it in. So, I mean, just getting this thing edited and out on time is a challenge sometimes, but the divine will speak to you. Trinae said it best one day. She said, when you're quiet with yourself, when you get quiet, you can hear the whisper of God. I like hearing the whisper of God.
Yeah, that's deep. That's
Yes.
definitely deep.
Sometimes that fucker's like, dude, you're fucking up, bro.
That's the job, though. He's got to somebody's got to let you know, and I feel like obviously it's
Mhm.
coming from God. You're gonna listen a little bit more than if it's I'm looking at you like, Wes, you're fucking up.
I don't know. Yeah. In my mind, I listened, but I was in the hot tub this morning praying, and I got a new hot tub recently, and I've been enjoying that. And I've suffered with back pain for years. The healer can't heal his own back pain, or the back pain is there because I haven't healed things that are still haunting me.
That's what I'm thinking. I
Mhm.
think it's something that's stuck. I think that's why.
Yeah, yeah. So I was doing my prayers in there, and Abby, she doesn't get in the hot tub, but she jumps up there and is just looking at me like, "What you doing, Dad?" I like that early in the morning. I like getting up early in the morning, doing prayers and feeling the sun on my face. And I'll take Abby down to the beach, and when I do my prayers, I recognize the four directions: Mother Earth, my open heart, and I pray to Jesus Christ, and I accept Him in my life, and then I invite the beings, the angels of the highest light, and I can feel them coming because we're talking about it. And my hands are already on fire and I haven't even really done the prayer, but feeling that Reiki energy come in. And I was sitting there this morning and I was just being more intentional with the prayer instead of just saying it. Because I said it so many times, I can roll through it and still be thinking about something else. And I noticed when I was super intentional with it, my hands were just like flaming on fire.
Fire.
Like, that's cool. You've never met my friend Sharon, but she has a little place down by the Outer Banks on Sailboat Road, I think it is. There's like 4 houses on Sailboat Road. And we were down there on our dock a couple years ago, and the dock's missing planks. The place needs some work, but it's eclectic. It's cool. There wasn't a stitch of wind. You could see for miles across the water. I looked at her, I said, "Hey, do you want to bring in God?" She said, "Yeah." And literally the second I started my prayers, I mean, the instant I started that prayer, I don't know where this wind came from, but you can see a ripple. The wind hit you in the face within 1/10 of a second.
Wild.
Out of nowhere. There's ripples on the water everywhere. The angels came in, God came in, just all that energy came flowing in. It was cool.
That sounds amazing. But I feel like when you like that little silly saying that we've heard ever since we were little, ask and you shall receive.
Mhm.
If you ask, you receive. It might be the most minuscule little like difference. Like, okay, that sounded like a big situation. But like even just a little wind
Yeah.
hitting you that wasn't there, it's being present enough
Mhm.
to realize that little sign, that little like nudge, that little confirmation that whatever you just asked for is coming in.
Butterfly going in front of you.
Absolutely.
I seen a video on, I don't know, Facebook or something the other day, and it brought tears to my eyes. This guy, this hunter, this big burly guy, and he's out there with his hunting equipment, and he says, "When I got here, I was looking across the lake and there was a bald eagle. And I told God, I said, sometimes I don't hear you. And I said, if you hear me today, I'd like to get closer to that bald eagle." And he turns the camera and the bird's sitting on his shoulder.
Wow.
This, you know how big a bald eagle is.
Absolutely,
I was,
yeah.
I was a little intimidated for him. I'm like, man, if that goes to land on you, I'm like, holy fucking shit, man.
Yeah, I don't think I'd let a bald eagle just land on me. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe if you're in that serenity of
Yeah.
asking and that's just how it's supposed to be,
Mhm.
but that's definitely intimidating.
Yeah, and I've been in that position. So I was in that position this week. This week, I've been sick again and caught something. And when I get really sick, I can't hear God. Messes with me, and I don't like that. And I remember sitting in my bed, and I had a fever, and kind of go down this rabbit hole of feeling bad for yourself. And finally, I'm like, that those feelings and emotions are a lie. That I can't hear God is bullshit. I'm just sick right now. And so when I get in those positions where I don't feel connected, or I've had friends tell me I've never felt that before. I can appreciate that. I was like 50 some years before I did, right? But I've come to the realization, and Joel Osteen was talking about that today. He said, when it is quiet and you can't hear the word of God is when you trust the most.
Absolutely. You have to trust that everything's working in that moment for your
Mhm.
favor. You're not going to hear him all the time. I think as healers, we believe, right, that you're connected at all times and everything. You can snap your fingers and just connect. There's some days that you literally just can't. And those
Mhm.
are the days you have to lean into trusting the unknown the most. And you can't get down on yourself and, oh, I don't have it anymore. I'm not gifted anymore. Or whatever you want to think
Yeah.
it is. Like, no, you just have to trust in
Yeah.
that moment and be like, all right, let's try again tomorrow and move along with it. You got to flow with it. It's definitely an ebb
Mhm.
and flow for
Yep.
sure. And that's something being in this energy and in this world, essentially, or really standing into my power and my gifts is understanding the ebb and flow of it. Because there were certain times there I was like, oh, I don't feel it today. What's wrong with me? Like,
Yep.
oh, I don't have it. This is all like made up. And it's not at all. It's just a day.
Mhm.
It's spirit telling you, hey, trust today. We got tomorrow. And you wake
Yeah.
up tomorrow and you go right back at it.
Well, I was talking to a friend of mine that's going through some healing courses right now. And the question was along the lines of, what if I don't have it? What if I don't have the gift? What if I can't do what you do? And I'm like, well, there's times that I don't even know if I have gifts. Pretty fucking gifted. But there's times where I've questioned if I even have a gift because I don't see anything. I don't hear anything. I don't feel anything. I feel ultra disconnected, and I've got a paying client on the table. And that will wake you up. But I have confidence and belief in the system and confidence and belief in Jesus. And I don't need him to sit there and look across the room and say, hey, fucker, I see you seeing me. We're good to go, right? I just know he's there. And it's funny, the clients will get off the table during those instances and they're like, gosh, this is the best session we've ever had with you. I'm like, really? I didn't feel shit.
Is this an appropriate time to say this would be one of those moments like, Jesus, take the wheel?
Yeah.
Because you really have to. It's just
Yeah.
like, all right, I'm not feeling it, but I trust
Mhm.
that the energy, Reiki, God is here stepping in when I'm not feeling it, and they're doing what needs to be done.
That's right. Because we're not the one doing the work anyways.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We're
We're
the
just a channel.
Yeah, we're the screwdriver, we're the wrench, we're the tool that's on the table that Jesus happens to choose, and he chooses everybody if you want to listen.
That's very true. I was going to backtrack and say that everyone's born with a gift. We're conditioned to completely shut off those gifts.
Mm-hmm.
But that's for another episode.
It is. Some people, their gift is to talk bad about everything.
We know a lot of those.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And that's hard. It is not Wesley Coons' normal operating mode in the past universe, hear that, to think positively and look at the bright side. It just wasn't who I was. I always, in the past universe, hear that, I used to have this negative self-talk. I believed the lies that I told myself. I believed the lies that other people told me, that you're ugly, weak, and stupid. And that's why I am constantly embedding myself with affirmations and changing the story, because I was told one day I could change my story.
You can change your story anytime.
Mhm.
You could decide to change it right now if you wanted to.
Yeah. And I never thought about that. I didn't think that I could just change my story. In my mind, I'm like, I'm nice to people. I'm courteous. I do the right thing when nobody's looking. I put others in front of me. The problem was I was never putting me first. I was never honoring who I was. Like we were talking about relationships before we came in here, and why we stay in relationships that we shouldn't be in is because we don't honor ourselves. We're not respecting ourselves. And because there's been instances for me where I wanted to be in love so freaking bad. I'm like, I'm feeling this over here, and I'm going to do whatever I have to do to make that stay. And the reality is that was a lie.
Absolute lie.
And I deserved better. But that person, the reality is that person loved me so much that they pulled the bullshit that they pulled for me to get hurt, so I could see the cracks in me, so I could heal myself.
Yep.
So I like to look at it that way.
You have to look at it that way. I feel like we've talked before, I feel like it's how you find the beauty in the pain, essentially. You have to look at what's really being presented without having a pity party on yourself, because everything happens for you, not to you.
That's right. And that's what we talk about in this show. Andrea talks about all the time, that you're one vibrational shift from becoming something different, the person that you are achieving to be, whatever you want to call that. And our vibration is so important, but our vibration is directly connected to the words we say, and the words that we say are directly connected to the level of healing that we're doing. I sat in there after looking at these past relationships, just trying to heal and look at things differently and figure out who I am, what I'm doing. And I was listening to this podcast, and this lady says, somebody can't love you any more than they love themselves. They cannot love you any more than they're healed. And I'm like, fuck.
Oof, yeah.
Yeah, right? And when she said that, I'm like, well, no wonder that didn't work. Because, I mean, look at me. I was more so looking at me. I'm like, man, I got so much stuff to do. Fuck it. Really?
It's a never-ending journey. The fact that you're self-aware is step one. And I think that's what a lot of people fail to say. I feel like a lot of people don't hold themselves accountable. They just expect everyone else to fix their problems. And it's just not how it works. You have to hold yourself accountable. Don't sound so excited.
Yeah, this journey has been, I've shared on the podcast many times, I didn't want to do the podcast.
Why?
I didn't want
You didn't tell me this story, but why?
I didn't want to go through the haunted house again. And I had not healed from that. And I was listening to something today, and they're talking about this corporation that had, I don't know what they made, but they had these chemicals that were toxic, and they put them in these barrels and they buried them, right? And the point was, there are certain things that can't be buried because they're so toxic, they'll keep coming up. And for me, dealing with being abused as a child, dealing with just healing, not dealing, healing from those things. And that haunted house was so toxic for me. I couldn't hide it. I couldn't bury it anymore. And so she pushed me to do that show, to do this show. And once we got through the 23, can you believe it? It was 23,
No.
23 fucking episodes
And it's across the world.
of the haunted house.
That's because that's a really loaded story though. There's a
Yeah.
lot going on there. When I first met you, you told me a brief version. I don't still think I have the entire version. I've listened to several of the episodes, so I've gotten even more details, but I don't know how you stayed. I would have been out. Gone.
Yeah, it was, I wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah, no, not for me.
Yeah,
That's your purpose here, sir. That's not
Yeah.
that's not in my journey.
yeah. the- It was crazy. And so I was thinking today, reflecting on that and how grateful I am that she pushed me to do those things. And ironically, she's not on the show. She's not on the show anymore. And I was talking to her this morning, and I don't know, she's doing something with her podcast, and we were just talking about some of that stuff. And when she first stopped coming back on the show, it felt so awkward to me, and now it doesn't really feel awkward anymore. And I still miss her, and she's my friend, but it's just weird how, in my mind, how the show is developed, how the show has helped me heal things. And then I'm thinking back of that little room down on 67th Street and having people show up and me doing healing sessions on them for the first time. And I did not know what the fuck I was doing.
Does anyone really know what the fuck they're doing?
I don't know, man. I like to pretend I know what I'm doing.
We all pretend 100%, but does anybody really know?
Doing those things. And I remember Sandra Grace came over after I got my first table, and she wanted to see the space, and she's so excited for me. And she's telling me, put it where the feet are facing the door, and it helps flow the energy out. And so we turned it around, and I could feel the energy in the room shift. And I'm like, wow, that's crazy. I still wasn't convinced I had gifts or anything at the time.
Well, it's definitely I don't want to say a rude awakening, but it's one of those things that growing up, you're kind of taught to think that this is all woo-woo stuff, that, oh, energy, somebody that can connect with the other side or connects with source or connect with each other is just so like out of the question. And it's just innate in us, but we just turned it all off.
Yeah.
So when you start getting in tune with those things, you have all of those voices, I guess, and like the stigma and the stereotypes and stuff of, am I woo-woo? Am I crazy? Like, did that just happen? Like, but it's, you just can't make it up. Like, there's no way that you can make it up when you start to work with people. Right?
Yeah. There was, because I send you shit at 3:00 in the morning. So if you're friends with me, I have certain friends that I send like TikToks and shit to, because in my mind, it is so profound that you have to see it too, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. But there was one that says something like, when you send your bestie a message saying, hey, am I crazy? And I started laughing. I was like, because the stuff we talk about is just crazy.
It's crazy to most people.
Yeah.
To us now, it's kind of normal. It's like, okay.
It's normal. So my license plate is VB Healer, is in Virginia Beach Healer. Oh, I was at Taylor's Do It Center yesterday, and the lady behind the counter looked out and she said, what does VB Healer mean? And there was 6 or 7 people there, and they're all probably in their 70s or 80s. And I said, oh, that's for Virginia Beach Healer. She said, well, what does a healer do? And I thought about it, and I said, well, I'm a Reiki master quantum healing expert, and people come to me and I heal them. And she said, well, what does that mean? I was like, well, you know how you can go to church and the church will do hands-on healing? She said, I've seen that. I said, yeah. So it's that on steroids, and Jesus flows through me at a high level, and together we heal the world. Dude, I cleared that place out so fucking fast. She just looked at me like, okay. Everybody except for the cash register person hauling ass. I'm like, hey, what do you do?
You know what? Your people will stay. Some people just aren't ready for it. They're just not ready for that type of energy to be into their life. They're not vibrating at the frequency that you are. So, of course, you're going to scare them away.
Yeah. And well, my aunt told me numerous times that I told her that I've heard Jesus speak to me and my mom has spoken to me, and she clearly let me know that that is all Satan. And why would Jesus speak to you? Why would an angel speak to me? Because we are so insignificant. And I remember that that frustrated me. I'm like, y'all talk because I don't really go to church. I'm not a big church person. I said, y'all go to that fucking brick building and talk shit about hearing God all the time. But the second we say we hear God, it's the devil. How can, when I pray to Jesus Christ, and Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior, I love you and I accept you in my life. And I do that multiple times a day, every day. I accept him into my life, into my soul, into my heart. How's the devil show? Doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense at all.
No, it's that.
It's a limited mindset, very closed-minded.
That's right. The old, antiquated, only like the priest or something can get that, because in my mind, because the church is going to get paid. But sorry, church, but that's what I believe.
Hey, your beliefs are valid.
Mhm.
I feel like the more that people start to speak out on their beliefs and they do have more of an open mind and they listen to shows like this, I think they will see the place and the role church has in our society. I'm just
Yeah.
going to say that.
I've been asking you to come on the show for a while.
I know
Yeah.
we really need to get together more. I feel like
Mhm.
it's easy, just our lives, everything's
Yeah.
been crazy.
So first off, I want to say thank you for being on the show. This is
Of course. Thank you
fun.
for having me.
So let me ask you this question, since I have you here. How long have you been on your spiritual journey? I mean, what does that look like?
Oh, well, I would say my actual spiritual journey probably since I was 27, 28. Um, I just started taking accountability for myself. I would stop playing the victim, not, oh, why is this happening? And blah, 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 blah. Like I was like, okay, I'm the driver in this. Like I'm the creator of my life. But it's a slow journey. Like just because you're aware of that doesn't mean everything just falls in line for you. Like the negative talk doesn't just go out of your head. You have to work diligently at it on a daily basis for the most part. But I really feel like when I reached out to you about a year and a half ago
Mhm.
now,
Yeah.
is when I really, I don't know, something just clicked in me. I was like, I feel like my energy is stuck. I don't know why that came to me. I don't question it. I was just like, I need to go to an energy healer. I've looked it up in the past, didn't find anything really like worth like, I guess, pursuing. And you were the first person that popped up.
Mhm.
So I text you. I think I text you or I called you. I think I text you and you were like, are you free for a call? I think that's how it happened.
Mhm.
And I was like, absolutely. And one thing that I have always had an issue with is using my voice, like speaking up and like standing up for myself, as a lot of us are, especially women. I feel like we're a lot of like just people pleasers. That's kind of how we've been brought up, is just to like appease everybody.
Sure.
And I was kind of, I fell victim to that for sure. But anyways, going back to our conversation, one of the first things that you said to me is you were like, is something wrong with your throat? I was like, no, I'm not sick or anything like that. But it's funny you say that because I have a hard time speaking up and I feel like my throat chakra is closed. And you were like, all right, come in and see me.
Mhm.
And then here we are today.
That's funny.
I think that was really the start of it. And then you presenting like, hey, I feel like you're very gifted. Maybe you should dabble in Reiki. So I took the
Mhm.
Reiki 1 and I loved it. Took the Reiki 2. Now I'm a Reiki master.
Mhm.
And I have fallen in love with this lifestyle. There's so
Yeah.
much to learn. And I constantly am learning. Like you can call it scrolling on your phone, but I scroll daily just to learn things, just to read like little messages that are being sent to me. Like I think everything happens for a reason. There's nothing that just is a coincidence. So going back to the story of walking up here, walking up onto your front porch and seeing that little butterfly fly by.
Yeah.
Like just that, like just knowing in that moment, like I'm in the right place.
Mhm.
Saw 11:11 twice today, or 11:11 and 1:11, but just like little things like that. The universe speaks to you in so many different ways.
It does.
So many, if you just pay attention, just be in the present. So that's how my journey started. And that's how I am here now. And I can't wait to see where it goes. Like
Yeah.
it's exciting. It sets my soul on fire.
It is Trinae talks about it all the time. She says it's magical. It is
It's
magical.
magic. It
And
really is.
yeah, it's just you get the opportunity to connect with whatever you want to call it, connecting with Jesus and feeling things and hearing things and seeing miracles every day. I remember somebody said one time a couple months ago, said, I hope I get to see a miracle before my life is over. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? I said, there's miracles every day if you know what you're looking for.
Yeah, open your eyes. Be
Yeah.
present.
I mean, it's not going to be this burning bush, but that miracle is that little boy getting off the bus or the little girl coming home from school and looking at their mother and father who is clearly struggling and figuring out life and sees them with that unconditional love and know that they're loved and they're safe. That's a miracle.
That's a miracle.
Oh.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I remember the day, and I talk about Trinae on the show a lot because Trinae taught me my Reiki stuff. She taught me how to think differently. And at some point she's going to be on the show. I know we've talked about it a couple weeks ago, and she just had a grandbaby.
She did. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Aw.
Little Phoenix is here now, and he is absolutely gorgeous. So I've not seen him, but
He's beautiful.
I feel like Cordelia was pregnant for like 2 years.
It did feel like a really long time because I
Oh.
saw the post the other day. I was like, oh, Phoenix is here. And I was like,
Mhm.
oh, he's finally here. Like, I feel like
Yeah.
we've been talking about it for a while.
Yeah. And those of you that have followed the show, that's Eric and Trinae's grandchild, and their son Vaughn passed away a few months ago, and that's his son. And so it just feels, I don't know, I feel like Vaughn's been gone a very, very long time. And I hate that. I loved him. I love that kid so much.
I never got the honor to meet him, but knowing he's part Trinae, he was
Mhm.
probably amazing.
He was this gentle giant. I mean, I'm 6'1". I'm not a little dude. And I'm looking up at him, and he's just almost a little clumsy, and he gives you this hug. And God, I fucking miss that kid. I do.
Well, he's with us at all times.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah. Tell him to, hey, Vaughn, I need some dishes done. So if you're going to be hanging out, man. But I know you can hear me, and I love you, and we're going to enjoy watching your son grow. And I know you're going to be there, and that's going to be so much fun. I was trying to think. I was at 67th Street for 9 months.
9?
9
That's
months.
it?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was a short-term winter rental. So if you don't know what that is, in the on season, these houses at the beach rent for a couple $1,000s a week. And in the off season, you can rent it for a couple $1,000s a month. And it's fully furnished. So I had to move out of there. And I moved into this rental up off of Great Neck Road, actually just across the street from where we're at right now. And I was there for about a year. And Lakota set up a medicine wheel in the house at that place. I had a medicine wheel in this room, but I had her take it down because I didn't have so much room. And she set up that medicine wheel, and then I set up my tables. Then I set up my healing table in the upstairs where I was at. That's when I started to find healing crystals that went underneath my table. You've seen them.
Mhm. Yep.
Every one of those has dragon energy in it. And I could feel the dragon energy. I would hear them call to me. I was at a stone crystal show down at the beach a couple years ago, and I could hear this one calling to me, and I'm like, fucking really? There's like 7,000 rocks in this place, and I could hear basically me, find me. And I could hear the sadness in it. And I walked almost directly to it. I think Andrea was with me. And this lady had this big table, and I just walked up, and there was 2 of them there. And one of them just didn't feel right. So I picked it up and I set it down. I said, this is not something that's going in my healing table. But the other one, the second I picked it up, I just started to cry. I could feel the sadness from that crystal of longing to be a part of something.
Oh, wow.
You know, it was really, really cool. So all of those, I don't think I ever shared.
You have never shared that with me before.
Yeah, all of those called to me and cried, and they wanted to be part of this family. And so the only ones that go under there is that. So, when I moved out of that rental, Lakota took down the medicine wheel because I was moving to this house. And in the book about Ho'oponopono, Zero Limits, the guy's talking about how you can connect with a house and you can hear the house talk to you. You can hear that chair, that the energy of that chair communicate with you, right? And so the house I was in, I remember it just begging me not to leave. And then the stones and the crystals were, as the medicine wheel was being taken down, hearing them crying for each other and longing for each other. Fuck, it was maddening.
Oh,
It was
wow.
maddening to hear. I hated that. And the energy in that room was so freaking powerful. And when I left that house, I did some energy work on the house because the house didn't want the homeowner to come back.
Oh,
They
okay.
they didn't have good energy. I mean, when I moved in there, I'm just like, fuck. I mean, who paints the brand new baby room diarrhea brown?
Not many people.
Nobody on the planet.
Not many people.
Yeah. And they were adamant that I did not paint that any other color. I'm just like, no problem, dude. I'm just going to close that door for the next 12 months. It was weird. But that house didn't want it to come back. And I remember it saying, don't you love me? Don't you love me? I'm like, it doesn't work that way. You're not my house and you are loved. So did some work there and calm that down. But hearing those stones and crystals and stuff longing for each other. And I've not heard that since, even when we moved over here and did things. Those stones and crystals are at my healing office, and then the others are here at the house still. They're just not set up. That was interesting, unique, and kind of sad when it was over.
Yeah, that's definitely an interesting story. I wonder why the energy was so intense amongst those, and now they're separated and everything's back to normal, I guess you would say. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's because I'm that gift.
Is that of course that must
Yeah,
be the answer.
I don't know. Everything's energy. If you're deeply connected, I think you can hear that stuff. And when you set your ego to the side and you allow yourself, so if you want your gifts to turn on, you don't concentrate. You go into a daydream space. I'm good at daydreaming. I sucked at school. I'm connecting with you. I'm not focusing on you. I'm looking off to the side and I allow myself to go into that neutral position, I call it. And I think it was a unique circumstance. I think I was still so open from during the haunted house. Everything was open. That was the problem, that I hadn't solidified fully. And it took a while. It took a couple of years, actually. At some level, I feel like I was more gifted then. I was just more open. So I could see and hear and feel things differently.
Okay, yeah,
And
that makes sense.
yeah, I long for that sometimes, but I don't long for the pain that came with being that open because it was fucking painful, dude.
Yeah. Like you said, the word maddening sounds pretty spot on. I feel like if you were hearing the sadness constantly, then that would just, it would bring your vibration down in a sense.
Mm-hmm. I got a Christmas tree this year, and it's the first one in 5 or 6 years, right? My mom died at Christmas, that haunted house, and then Christina was there. Connor, I thought I was going to adopt Connor. And so there was a lot of loss. That version of me was lost when that house was over. And I was just fucking not in a good place. So this year I got a Christmas tree for the first time in like 6 years. Dude, I'm walking through the house arguing with this fucking Christmas tree because the tree's like, I'm dying. I'm like, are you serious? I'm texting Andrea. I'm like, I'm going to fucking throw this bitch out in the damn dumpster in a minute because it was maddening. I'm like, finally, I think Margaret or somebody suggested, why don't you connect with it and do some healing?
Yeah, or give it some sugar water.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh, gee, hey, maybe the healer should do some healings and bring love to the table. But I hate using the word triggering, but it was triggering me. I was so uncomfortable. And I'm like, I understand, honey, I can't make you grow roots. Margaret was telling me about her, I think it was her son, I think it was Margaret, it was either Margaret or Lakota, where they took down a tree in the front yard and they didn't want them to take down the tree. So they went up and placed their hand on the tree. And within like a couple minutes, their son came in the house and said, "Hey, what did you do?" And they're like, "Why?" He said, "Every bug, everything that's in that tree is leaving."
What?
Yeah.
Wild.
So they went and told the tree that it's going to be taken down, and all the wildlife and stuff that was living in it left.
Wow. Amazing.
Yeah. And yeah, I remember them telling me how they just sobbed because they could hear the tree dying as it was being cut down. And I'm like, that's some of my gifts that I don't enjoy.
We can't enjoy all of them.
No.
Can't enjoy all of them.
But I started doing healing on the tree and talking to it and telling it I loved it. I don't know if you noticed I got plants in there, so I'm starting to have plants, and actually they're growing. They're not dying.
They're not dying?
No.
Okay, well, maybe you can help me because I can kill a mint plant. So
I don't know, just something's changing in me. I wanna have the energy of the plant so I can hear the plants talk to me. And right now we're on a Beatles binge. So I've got a record player in there and I play the Lonely Hearts Club Band album. I think that's the name of the album. It's the one where they're all dressed up like in a circus or whatever, and they like to hear it twice.
oh, okay. Plants like to hear it twice.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So I'll play it once and I'll hear them say, "I want to play it again." I'm like, "Well, I'll turn it on before I leave." And sometimes that works and sometimes they don't want to wait. And I do a little Reiki on them, talk to them, and I can hear them tell me I'm thirsty or I get a little bit too much sun, and I'll move it 5 or 6 inches and I hear it say, "Okay." And they're doing well.
I'm learning lots about you today.
Mhm.
I didn't know you could tune into that energy. I definitely can relate because I feel like if I'm out walking at like the state park and stuff, like I guess you could call me a tree hugger, but there are certain trees I just feel drawn to and I have to go put my hands on and just
Mhm.
stand there in stillness and my presence. It was really cool. One of the times I took Declan out there and wandered off, found this tree that I felt I guess was speaking to me. I put my hands on it,
Mhm.
and then when I opened my eyes, I looked down, and my 9-year-old son is standing beside me with his hands on the tree. He was like, "Mom, the energy feels really good with this one.
Nice.
Feels a little heavy, but really good." And it was just mind blowing. I'm like,
Mhm.
my 9-year-old, like, no one could have made that up. Like,
Yeah.
so I definitely feel like, especially plants and trees. I mean, it's Mother Earth. Like, they speak to us so much. But again, we just don't listen half the time.
Mhm. Well, we get caught up in stuff, and I'm not huge on going out into the nature. I know people talk about, "Oh, you go out there and get grounded." I'm like, "Fuck that."
Well, you have an
Doesn't call
oasis
to
in
me.
the backyard too, so that
Yeah.
is your nature.
Yeah. Well, I'll go out. I've got palm trees in the backyard, so I will go out and talk to my palm trees and tell them how pretty they are, and they'll tell me when they want fertilizer and stuff like that. I enjoy that. I have I have the strangest conversations.
I
Yeah.
bet you do. And then I'm thinking, trying to call in like the love of your life, you're giving all your attention to your plants.
Yeah, well,
There's the issue right there.
they're a bit more loyal, I guess. I don't know. But you see me walking around here, I can hear the dog arguing with me, the fucking trees arguing with me, and I'm like, "Fuck you, motherfucker. I'm supposed to be holy and spiritual." It can be quite comical around here.
Oh, I would love to be a fly on the wall.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was driving down the expressway today and just daydreaming, and I looked up and there was a hearse. I'm fucking really? Because then there's all these dead people that follow the hearse around, and all of a sudden, the second I seen it, I brought in a column of white light and I placed it on the hearse, and 37 souls went to light instantly. And I'm like, "Yep, they ain't chasing me the rest of the day." Oh, uh, it's interesting. It's for a weird, strange, beautiful life, right?
I love it. I loved hearing the stories. Like, I hope to get to where you are one day, but everyone's journey is different.
Crazyville.
Crazyville. It's not though. I feel like it's entertaining. Like I think it's beautiful, to be honest.
Yeah,
I know it's
it
not
is.
always beautiful, but I feel like listening to it and knowing that you're that in tune and that in touch
Mhm.
is absolutely beautiful. It's
Yeah,
a gift.
it's fun. They had a guy a couple years ago. Long story short, he took his own life on the expressway down here. where Creighton goes under and turns to London
hmm
Bridge and the expressway's right there. My buddy Brian is a very gifted guitarist and singer and stuff, and he sings down here locally. So Brian, if you're listening, buddy, I love you very much. Brian Dunn is very, very, very gifted. So if you ever see where Brian Dunn is playing somewhere, you want to have a wonderful evening, go check him out and tip him very well because he's very gifted. You'll love listening to him entertain you. So he's telling me about this, and he's so heartbroken. And I called him like 2 days later because I'm at that stoplight, and I look up, and there's this dead white guy with dreadlocks. I'm like, dude, is your friend white with dreadlocks? I mean, how many white guys with dreadlocks are there, right?
Yeah.
And he said, yeah, why? I was like, well, I'm driving down the freaking road right now. And he's like trying to sit in the truck and come with me, but he's like next to the truck. I wouldn't let him in. And so I ultimately ended up helping him go to the light, but he gave me some really beautiful messages, and his brother was open to receive them. And I gave that to his family and helped them with some closure because, it was a very, very tragic end of his life. And there's a lot of hurting people from that.
Ow.
Yeah. Seeing dead people can be weird.
I see dead people.
Yeah, right. So, but I don't know. I mean, this is this season 4, episode 1, and we're
First
done.
episode.
And we're done. So we've got like 40 of them.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
It goes by fast.
It does.
You need to have more people on your show that you just like watching you like talk and like just seeing your excitement about being on this show and doing this podcast for all your listeners is just awesome to watch. Your energy is thriving right now. You can feel it.
It's fun. I like doing this. I don't know how it helps people. I don't think of it that way because I'm kind of selfish because I know it helps me.
That's really all that matters.
But I have people reach out all the time saying how the show has changed something for me. That's cool.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
That's so awesome.
So when somebody says, I haven't seen a miracle, that's a miracle right there. God brought Andrea to me to get me to write these books and do these things and push me in my spiritual journey. And then she had other things to do. We're here for a season and we're just not working together right now. We talk all the time and just things are shifting and things are going to continue to shift. And we were talking earlier, my healing stuff is changing again. And it's fun.
It is. I can't wait to see where it takes you next. I feel like you're right where you need to be. And I feel like you're in alignment, and the journey is, like you just said, everything comes into your life for the most part as a season. Some things stay, some things go. But I feel like you're switching seasons right now.
If you like the show, give us a nice 5-star review. We've got the children's books, Sydney's New Bike, What Color's Your Dragon? You find those on Amazon. The 15-minute transformation is on there. And when are you going to write your first book?
I guess when my spiritual buddy nudges me to do it, wink, wink, hint, hint.
Yeah, we're going to have to start working on that because right as I said that, the thought came in to say that to you. I know when God's whispering.
I mean, if I'm going to trust anybody, it's going to be you. All the whispers. You get all the whispers.
Hey, I'm not going to say a word on that. That's scary. Like, hey, they trust me. I'm like, what the fuck's happening?
You just got to trust it.
So thank you, Bretney, for being on the show. I love you. You're my friend. I appreciate you. I respect you. You're a very talented. And when I say beautiful, I'm not talking about your exterior beauty. Your interior beauty is significantly more beautiful. And you, of course, you're beautiful, but you're a wonderful mom. And I appreciate you being in my life. And thank you for being on the show.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you so much. You are an absolute pleasure to be around and work with. And your late night little Instagram things you send me, I wake up and I always have a smile on my face. So
Cool. Well, I love you. And everybody on the show, we'll see you next week. We're back. We're doing season 4. I've got an episode of Margaret's that I'm working on. I had some technical issues that I'm working through. Rocky's going to be on the show soon. Beth is going to be on the show. We had the blizzard of, what year is it?
2025.
Yeah, we had the blizzard of 2025. We got 10 inches in Virginia Beach, and so it kind of screwed some things up. Then I got sick. So It's going to be a great season, and I will see you next week.
You've been listening to Enlightenment Unknown with Wes Coons, your guide on the quest for self-discovery and the version of you we haven't met yet.